If you want to learn how to pull bigger weights while keeping your back healthy, here's exactly how I coach and cue the Sumo Deadlift. Let's start with a moment of honesty. Deadlifting is just flat out fun to do. Now, I don't know about you, but there's no better feeling than having some loud music, gripping that barbell, and giving it a ride that really gets the adrenaline pumping. But with that being said, not everyone is built to pull conventionally, especially if you have a history of lower back issues. Now, if this sounds like you, maybe the Sumo Deadlift is in your future. Sumo deadlifts are great for any lifter that has adequate hip mobility, strong legs, and or just wants to protect their lower back when pulling. So today I want to share with you the exact setup and coaching cues I use to pull a 3x bodyweight deadlift back in my powerlifting days. Now before we dive in here, if you're liking the content here at the channel, please take 2 seconds out of your day, like this video and subscribe so you know each and every week when a new video drops. Now, let's get in the gym and start pulling. All right, step number 1 when we're setting up for a big sumo deadlift is to get our heels in close. Now, this is something I learned, I can't even remember, it's like 15, 20 years ago. I was at a USAPL Nationals and one of the lifters told me, hey, if you want to pull big weights, you got to get your heels in really close to the bar. Because my feet, I had a little bit of clearance, like an inch or two, and I was too far away from the bar. So what you want to do is really think about crowding the bar. So if you want to do it, you want to get your feet in as close as you can. In a perfect world, your heels are directly underneath the bar. So when you start to lower down, your shins have almost nowhere to go. You want to keep them as vertical as possible. Our second key point is to get a big breath. Now, I don't want to say this is controversial, but it's left open for interpretation. I like to take a big breath up top and get tight here, because I find when I get in that bottom position, it's really hard. I'm already squished and kind of compressed, so it's really hard to get a good solid breath in the bottom position. So I like to get my feet set, take that big breath in, and get tight before I lower down. Step number 3 is all about getting your hips down and in the right position. So if we're kind of walking back through this, we get our heels in close, we take our big breath, and then we start to lower down. And what I like to think about is staying tall or long through my torso. I don't want to get turtled over. I want to stay tall, and I want to think about almost just letting my hips sink straight down. If you kind of do it in this little, like, slow, kind of methodical fashion, it may help you keep a more upright posture and help you lock in your torso so your hips are in a great position to drive and get that bar moving. So step number 3 and step number 4 really kind of go hand in hand. If you're lowering your hips down in this methodical fashion and really trying to stay tall, you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. But if you have a tendency to kind of get caved over at the start and you like to pull your hips down, step number 4 is making sure your head and your chest are up. You don't want to start in this position where you're already bent over. Most people aren't very successful when they've got their hips up really high, because what happens is when you start to push, your hips come up, your chest comes down, and you can't finish the lift. It ends up being all back. So when you set up, you want hips down, you want your head and chest up, so that when you push, it's this smooth, seamless pull. The legs are driving everything, and your torso and your back are just one rigid lever. Now, once we're down in this bottom position, one of the key things that we want to do, and a mistake I made when I was younger, was getting tight and getting my lats engaged with the lift. Now, what a lot of people do when they think lats is they really try and excessively arch. That's not what I'm talking about. If you're using your lats effectively, you're using your lats to keep that bar in tight, so you're thinking about pulling the bar back into your shins. So when I set up, feet are set, dropping my hips down, my torso and my chest are up. Those lats are tight. I can feel the bar tight against my shins. And once I'm here, I'm really locked in and I'm ready to push. Now, once we're locked in here, right? Bars up against our shins, our lats are tight, we're locked in. Very, very important. You want to get tight. You want to take the slack out of the bar. Before you ever pull, it should almost feel light, and then you're going to push aggressively through the ground. So you're set, lats tight, push, and be aggressive. Really try and seamlessly rip that bar off the ground, but make it smooth and continuous throughout. Now, our final tip here is really important, especially as the weights start to get heavy. One of the biggest issues you'll see, somebody will do everything right. They'll get set up, they're locked in, they're tight. And then that first push, their hips will come up, they'll end up caved over, and then they'll just have to finish the lift with their back, which is obviously not a great way to do things. So when the weight gets heavy, something I'm always trying to think about is leading with my chest. So once I'm set up and I'm tight, instead of letting the hips come up, I'm thinking about leading with my chest. That's gonna keep my hips underneath me and allow me to push effectively with my legs. So now that we've gone through the individual steps, let's put it all together. We get our heels in close, right? We take our big breath. We get our hips down, kind of slowly and methodically. Get our hips in the right position. We've got our back and our torso up, right? We've got the slack out of the bar. Our lats are tight. Once we're here, we're pushing and we're keeping that chest up as we pull. We're thinking about leading with the chest so we can make that really smooth and effective pull. All right, friends, there you have it. A step-by-step breakdown of how to set up and perform the sumo deadlift. The only thing left to do is get in the gym and give it a run. Now, if you've tried conventional, trap bar, and even sumo deadlifts, and none of them are working for you, watch this video next, because it may be time to think outside the box and try some different deadlift variations instead. Good luck.